For today's Grib Adventure, we find ourselves once again home in Los Angeles, California. Today we're going to be spending the day exploring the historic Laurel Canyon, tracking down some of its iconic music history. We're going to be using both photographs as well as stories, legends, and lore. Somebody recently said that we're the Indiana Jones of horror. I like to say the Indiana Bones of horror. This is going to be a fun one. A little stories from the canyon here in Hollywood.
This is the end, beautiful friend. This is the end, my only friend.
When it comes to music history here in Los Angeles, what you have to realize is this. Laurel Canyon was kind of like the Mecca for it all. Anybody who was anybody in music or wanted to be somebody in music was living here and writing music. Laurel Canyon's not that far from Hollywood proper, but yet still feels like you're kind of like in like a mountainous bohemian kind of setting. Everybody from Joni Mitchell lived here and wrote music. Frank Zappa lived here and wrote music. Stevie Nicks was photographed here. The Doors actually lived right up the street. Now, every picture that I just showed you is what we're going to use for the basis of this video and tell even more stories. We're going to try to track down the exact locations. Some of these photos, some of the most iconic photos in music history here in Hollywood, here in Los Angeles, were taken.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
Now, before we get too deep in tracking down photo locations here in Laurel Canyon, we have to talk about probably one of the most famous stories to ever come from this canyon. And that's the story of Jim and Pam. It's right, the Doors and Love Street. So our first stop brings us to the corner of Laurel Canyon Drive and Kirkwood Drive to what is known as Love Street, especially if you're a Doors fan. I knew there was a sign here that talked about Love Street and Jim and Pam's time here. For a moment I was a little scared. I thought it got torn down. Just the tree has kind of overgrown it a little bit. Now right back here you can see this building. This is where Jim and Pam lived. Well, there was a bad fire that kind of pretty much burned down the original structure, so this one has been rebuilt in its spot. But it's beautiful. You can come out here and you can visit and get some pictures.
Back here at home, it was once the home of rock and roll royalty, but tonight it's one of the structures seriously damaged during the Hollywood arson spree. KTLA5's Dave Malkoff has an exclusive look inside the burned out remains of Jim Morrison's famous Love Street home.
This fast-burning, purposely set fire started in the middle of the night with the owner inside. In a panic, he called his friend George Dallinger.
We actually met in Paris over 15 years ago, where Jim Morrison happened to die in '71.
Exactly 45 years earlier, almost to the day, the Doors appeared on KTLA5 performing a brand new song, Break On Through. Morrison lived here with his girlfriend in the house known as Love Street in Laurel Canyon. 10 years ago, George took over.
Redesigned the whole inside and redid it.
Using his personal camera, George gave us an exclusive look at what he lost in the fire.
There's water damage, smoke damage. That's the living room where you see the whole entire attic and roof is completely scorched. That's the kitchen there.
Custom cabinetry is gone, so are the appliances.
As you can see, you know, they've already plastic and covered it, the fire department did, and it's completely scorched, and so that'll all have to be taken down and redone as well.
Now, every house fire story has that one miracle item that magically didn't burn. This one is no different. Follow me on this. This is the Mazda Miata that got set on fire, causing the whole house to go up in flames. Right up there is a balcony. If you look on that balcony, you can see this guitar. It's sitting outside where it was when the fire was burning. That guitar was saved, and one more thing inside here.
A secret shower.
When George removes the medicine cabinet, you see Jim Morrison's shower and goodbye messages from his neighbors in the 70s.
You know, it's just a great place, a great vibe. You really feel the spirit of Laurel Canyon.
There is one part of the house that was untouched, right near the red tag. The front doors, of course. In Laurel Canyon, Dave Malcolm, KTLA 5 News.
Morrison House parking only, 8021 Rothdale Trail. All others will be towed. It's nice to see that the owners are embracing the doors. Again, we do a pretty in-depth video on this place. So if you want to check that video out, I'm going to put the link in the description below of this one. It's fun. Music history, Laurel Canyon history, Hollywood history. It's just something I love. Now before we leave, we got to go check out the store where the creatures meet. To give you a better idea of the area, the building on your right is the Morrison House. And down here at the end of the street, right about the center of your screen, you can kind of see it poking out from behind the trees. That is the store where the creatures meet that Jim sings about in the song Love Street. Now, of course, I can't play the song because of copyright, but I can read the lyrics. I see you live on Love Street. There's this store where the creatures meet. I wonder what they do in there. Summer Sunday and a year. Now the fun thing about this, it's not the summer when I'm here visiting while doing this video. I live here. It's actually December, but it is a Sunday. So obviously this place has a well-documented history with the doors. I mean, it has 2 signs here on the corner, as well as painted signs on an electric box for the doors and Love Street. It's been in movies. It's been in Halloween Part 3, Season of the Witch. I think it's been in Leprechaun, a bunch of other things. People come here all the time. This is also a great place to meet celebrities if you're lucky. Now, there's something else that most people don't know about. It's kind of like a legend, lore, if you will. This is what I was talking about. Pictures and legends and lore. Mama Cass, the legendary Mama Cass. She used to live down in the basement of this place, this country store. Let me show you. Yeah, let me show you. There's actually a pretty decent sized parking lot on the other side of the building, but if you live here, like in the neighborhood, you probably walked up these steps to get to the country store to buy whatever you need. But whenever Mama Cass was living here, she didn't go through the front door. There's this little side entrance, which is now somewhat of like a fancy restaurant. But she would go down this way into the storeroom and she would sleep. She would live down here. That doors video that I was just telling you that we made a couple years ago, when we were here for this and we were talking about the store, I went in there and I asked them about Mama Cass, and they did confirm. They told me that this is the entrance that she would take whenever she would come here and sleep underneath the store in the storeroom. In fact, they actually took me downstairs. There really wasn't anything to see. There's just boxes. I mean, so much has changed. I'm gonna go inside and see if they'll let me get some shots inside, and if we're lucky, fingers and bones crossed, they'll let us go downstairs so we can just kind of see it. Again, there's not much to see down there anymore, but we'll ask. There are tons of pictures everywhere. A lot of history here, going all the way back to 1919. There's a few that we want to point out. The first one being this. So you guys got to see what Jim Morrison's house looks like now. But look at this picture right here. You can see that building right there. That's the country store that I'm in right now, the Laurel Canyon Country Store. There's the cleaners. And that building right there is where Jim and Pam lived before it burned. It wasn't a fire that started in the house. It was a car fire that was parked out front. Doors concert poster and Steven Tyler. There's a couple pictures of Steven Tyler in here. See what I mean by celebrities coming in here? We got Joaquin Phoenix on the left, right in the middle, Steven Tyler, and then Chevy Chase. There are pictures everywhere. Here's one here of Pam and Jim on the right. The owners of this country store are beyond nice. If you come out here and you want to go inside and get some pictures, maybe buy something, they have a coffee shop and a little deli, do it. It's well worth it. They gave me a little tour. Every time I come in here, they give me a little tour of the place and they point out the owner The guy who originally owned this place back in 1919, I think it was. I did ask about Mama Cass living in the basement, and they did confirm, and they said that you can't go down there anymore. It's been changed so much. Now the restaurant, that door that I showed you that Mama Cass would go in, the restaurant has grown so big that they have taken over the entire basement of this place. But they did say, and I left this out earlier, is after she would perform or be out partying down in Hollywood, this is probably the first stop. So she would come here and crash underneath the basement, well, underneath the building in the basement. All right, on to the next one. Our journey deeper and deeper into Laurel Canyon now brings us to a place known as Oak Court. More importantly, you see that house right about there, high above the tree line? Back in the day, that was owned by a radio personality, a radio DJ by the name of Jim Ladd. And he had so many different rock stars and musicians over to his house for interviews. There's a picture online that I found of Tom Petty sitting on the couch, looking like they're about to do something a little interesting. You'll see in the photo. But the photo that brings us here is a little photo shoot with Stevie Nicks. So let's see here. Jim Ladd lived in this house right here. Again, so many different musicians and rock stars were up there in that house, high on the hill, a steep embankment for interviews. How did they get up there? Now, these photos of Stevie Nicks here on this property are probably some of my favorite because they show something that's very unique to the Hollywood Hills. It's a little like tram, like a hill elevator, not an elevator, a hill elevator, and it's still here.
This is Jim Ladd, and I'm sitting here high in the Hollywood Hills in the house that I've been in since 1974, and it means a lot. It's a real magical house, as you'll see. It was 1974. I rode up the tram, and I got about halfway up the tram, and I went, I gotta live here. A lot of people in the industry have come and shared it with me. The Eagles and Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks, Roger Waters, Bonnie Raitt has been here, Buddy Guy has been here. The Doors have graced this place many times. And they've all come to the house to sit and talk and have a good time. Another one I'll never forget was George Harrison was here. Came up the tram, into the house, spent the first 10 minutes trying to make me feel comfortable because it was George Harrison.
It blows my mind that the elevator here at 8520 Oak Court is still here. And it looks like it's been refurbished. You probably still can use it, and there's steps that go all the way up to the house now as well. But this, I want to ride it. I really want to ride it. Look at that. So there's an intercom. They don't want me on the property, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to trespass. But you can see the track right there. Stevie Nicks was photographed on the little tram car. There's an old wooden tram car right where the metal one is now.
Can you leave, please?
Pretty neat, right?
I live in this house. Why are you here?
Do you want, so I'll tell you, just don't swear at me again because I'm recording this.
Doesn't matter. I'm allowed to swear at you. You're all right.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm not on private property.
Yes, you are.
Oak Court is your private property? Now, I will say this, where I'm standing at right now is public property. I am on Oak Court. It is a street. The elevator is on private property, and there's a ring camera down there in that little landing right next to the metal bucket. They've been very adamant and very vocal about not wanting me here to please leave. They even started swearing at me. But I always say this, I never understood it. You know, I mean, you buy a house and it has some historic, historic place, foothold. It's bound to happen, especially in Hollywood, California. A place like this. Beautiful plot of land. I can only imagine the musicians that were here that have rode the elevator up to Jim Ladd's house to be interviewed by him, to be on his radio show. let alone photographed. I was able to find 2, the ones with Stevie Nicks as well as Tom Petty. But it's still here. There's a couple of them, but 8520 Oak Court is where it happened. Right there. Again, really wish that I could ride it, but can't. It is on private property. But if you come up here on Oak Court at the end, there's a little turnaround. It's public property. You can come up here, take as many photos as you want. So come up and walk Laurel Canyon music history. The gates you're looking at right now are one of the gates to the Houdini mansion here in Laurel Canyon. And technically this is not part of our tour, not part of our video, but I wanted to point it out because it kind of pinpoints where we are in our journey. So if I'm not mistaken, actually Harry Houdini didn't really live here. He didn't own the property. He actually had friends. Whenever he was here filming 2 movies in Los Angeles or performing here, he would stay at his friend's place. But this place is named after him. It's a beautiful building on the inside. Wedding venues. Let's see, the Houdini estate, private. I think at this point it doesn't really matter whether Houdini lived here or not. Pretty much everybody knows or calls this place the Houdini estate. There's even a bust of the man right here on the corner of Willow Glen Road and Laurel Canyon Boulevard. It's massive. Harry Houdini, 1874 to 1926. No prison can hold me. No hand or leg irons or steel locks can shackle me. No ropes or chains can keep me from my freedom. And there's some handcuffs there. Now don't get me wrong, this is cool. And it might come as a shock to you, a surprise, but I am a massive Magic fan. I'm a massive Houdini fan. I'd love to get in there and maybe do a video at some point. But today's video is actually taking us directly across the street. One of the biggest secrets of Laurel Canyon is actually hiding right in front of Laurel Canyon. Everybody passes by it every single day. And it's soon, well hopefully soon, going to be becoming a park called Laurel Springs Park, I do believe. But this property here, this is where Frank Zappa lived. Well, not what you're looking at right now. It's on this property that I'm standing, where Frank Zappa would create music and would have a whole bunch of musicians coming over. It was just a crazy, crazy, crazy time. When it comes to structures, there's really nothing left. The house, the log cabin, this massive log cabin burned down a long time ago. But what remains are these like archaic shells. And then up in the hills above me off to the right are man-made caves. But what I'm looking for right now is where the house once stood. And it used to be right over here. So for all you Frank Zappa fans, before he moved over to the house in Woodrow Wilson and would have the Zappa archives over there, eventually Lady Gaga bought it and she recorded an album there. And I know this because we did a big video on Frank Zappa. But before all of that, back in the 60s, back whenever, you know, they were starting to get their groove on, if you will, the log cabin that you heard about was here. And how do we know where Frank Zappa's log cabin once stood? Well, the swimming pool that was attached to the house is still here. This small portion of land that I'm walking through, which I have permission to be here, let me just go ahead and say that, is going to become the park. The swimming pool, however, it's fenced off. It's part of another property. And just down this road, like down this path, past all the woods, there's another log cabin there. Don't get confused. That's not where Frank Zappa's log cabin was. But the swimming pool, this one right here, you can see it behind the fence. This is all that remains. Now, a fun thing about this, our next stop that we're going to talk about is Joni Mitchell, and she lived a little further up Lookout Mountain Road, which is the road that runs to the left of the swimming pool here, and basically she can look out her window down onto Frank Zappa's place. The fact that this is still here, right? You know how oftentimes people will write their names in cement, like fresh cement? How cool would it be as if we're walking through here and we found something that says Zappa on it? What is this? Some sort of storage area. There's pipes coming through. Nothing Zappa in here. Supposedly, some of these man-made caves and dugouts are still here up in the hills. And aside from what you're looking at right now. So let's go up here and see if we can find any. This is definitely walking history. Look at this. These paths. This is crazy. Look at this. There, it's like a labyrinth of steps, a labyrinth of concrete steps up the hillside. Wow. Oh man. Oh, this is crazy. Hello? Oh, wow. All right, so it's not like, here, this is straight up. Basically, this is the whole room. The fact that this is still here, that I'm standing in it right now, it just blows my mind. It's all fake. It's not real. I mean, look, this is that's cool. Wow. Look at this. The path just keeps going and going and going, zigzagging up the hillside. Man, I wish that I was alive back then whenever Zappa was here with all the musicians. I want to attend one of the parties here in the canyon. I wonder how far up it goes. Looks like there's a wall or some sort of seat that has some tiles on it, some colored tiles. It looks like we're almost to the top of the hill. It doesn't look like we can go much further. But there's at least one more man-made structure still standing. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, let's walk through it. It blows my mind that it's still here. Cool, right? And for how long though? I mean, if they're gonna make this into the park, are they gonna keep these man-made caves, these man-made structures, or are they gonna cut them out? Gut them out, if you will. I hope they keep them. All right, we gotta go back down. I don't wanna leave. This is fun. This was unexpected. So unexpected. There is so much history here. I know somebody's gonna go, wait a second, Mr. Grimm. All you talked about was Zappa and then walk through the hills looking at fake stones. You didn't talk about this history or that history or what happened here. Trust me, there is so much, it'll make your head spin. But we are here for one picture and one picture alone. All right, I apologize. I kind of got caught up with exploring the man-made caves and walking up the hillside, all the different steps in the labyrinth of going this way and that way, that I completely forgot why we came here. The picture of Frank Zappa on a bulldozer on this property. Now you have to keep in mind, a lot is going to change over the years, especially since Frank Zappa and Everybody was here way back in the day. Even longer than that, this property. But somewhere over here, Frank Zappa was sitting on a tractor, on a bulldozer, and he was photographed. And nobody knows exactly where it was at. Some people say that it was on top of the canyon, other people say it was down here, but a lot more resources, a lot more sources, if you will, say that it was down here on the actual property itself. To be honest, I don't think anybody's ever going to know where that photo was taken. A lot has changed. There's new trees, there's new shrubs, buildings have been torn down, the ground has been reworked. But one thing's for certain, Frank Zappa was here. From here, we're going to leave the property and head over to our next stop. We're going to be walking up the street, up this way, further up Lookout Mountain Road, deeper into the canyon, to where one of, in my opinion, probably the most famous picture of Joni Mitchell that was ever taken was at her house. She was living up there, right behind Frank Zappa. Again, she could literally see down into his swimming pool. Well, his house, his property. So I have a bit of a confession to make. When it comes to the music of Joni Mitchell, I honestly don't know anything that she sings. I'm not entirely sure if I like her music or if I don't like her music. I'm sure I know her songs, but I can't be like, oh, yeah, that's Joni Mitchell. But even though I'm not a fan, I recognize how iconic this one photo is. This greenhouse right here, nestled in the trees at 8217 Lookout Mountain Road, is where Joni Mitchell was living whenever these photos were taken of her. Her leaning out the window. Now I'm guessing the exact window is on the back side of the house. But you can kind of see it's the same style, the same color right here in the front. Here's a closer shot of the house. The bay window's right there in the front. Again, I think the actual window's on the back side. And that's cool. That's really cool. A quick stop. And with that being said, thank you for joining us on another grim adventure, this time exploring some of the stories, legends, and lore, and through photographs and more. See what I did there? Stop rhyming, and I mean it. Anybody want a peanut? The Princess Bride, come on. Thank you. Until next time, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.